Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Several people sent me an update on a story I did back in December from Alabama. Story here is from AL.com. Howard Koplowitz wrote it. Thank God this part is over. Alabama judge throws out case against woman charged with not paying an $85 trash bill. You'll recall she was arrested for not paying her trash bill. An Alabama judge dismissed the case against the woman. She's 49 years old, and she had been charged with not paying her $85 trash bill. Now, most people are going to say, Steve, she really ought to pay her bills. Yeah, she should. But is the correct remedy for someone who doesn't pay their $85 trash bill to have them arrested, literally arrested? So the woman is among a number of current or former Valley residents either arrested or prosecuted for failing to pay the trash bills. In her case, failing to pay solid waste fees, charges were filed against her after she didn't pay 3 months. So she fell 3 months behind in her trash bills. The Chambers County Circuit Court judge dismissed the case against her on Wednesday, a week after her lawyers with the Southern Poverty Law Center filed a motion to throw out the case. So luckily she got someone to step in and take care of her legally. Attorneys there argued that the complaint filed against her in November did not actually charge a criminal offense. Turns out if you're going to arrest somebody, there needs to be an actual underlying crime. And it's an argument they made, and judge agreed. So the woman is indigent and did not willfully neglect or refuse to comply with the notice to pay the trash bill. Willfulness is needed in Alabama to charge residents with a crime for non-payment of bills. So if you simply can't pay your bill, it's not a crime. If you choose to not pay your bill, and you could, that might be a crime. So the woman lives well below the federal poverty line during normal times. She's under even greater financial strain during the summer of 2022, when the city initiated this case because she was acting as the primary caregiver for her 2 grandchildren, her cousin and her cousin's 2 children. Because she could not afford to pay her trash bill, prosecuting her for non-payment violates her constitutional rights. So the woman was relieved the case against her was dismissed. She said, thank God this part is over. She'll no longer be prosecuted, and her attorney felt bad that the city of Valley continues to pursue charges against other former and current residents who haven't paid their trash bills. And he's talking about actually filing criminal charges as opposed to simply making collection efforts. The city had come under fire in November when police arrested and jailed an 82-year-old woman for not paying her $77 trash bill. That was an incident that stirred national outrage. The Alabama and federal constitutions prohibit prosecuting people simply because they cannot pay a garbage bill, the attorney said. Although we're pleased that Ms. Jackson's ordeal is over, the city of Valley is currently prosecuting other people for violating a statute that does not make non-payment a crime. We ask officials to dismiss those charges too, and to take proactive steps to ensure that people who fall behind on their trash bills are not unfairly punished for their poverty. A federal class action lawsuit was filed last month against Valley and its trash provider, accusing the entities of violating the residential constitutional rights. And to be clear, the trash provider is a provider of trash pickup and disposal. Valley knew or should have known that it cannot imprison people or threaten to imprison people for the failure to pay garbage collection fees, the lawsuit says. It's filed on behalf of a former Valley resident who claims she was arrested for not paying her trash bill, which was less than $150 back in 2011, and then jailed on a $2,500 bond for the offense in 2013. Valley violated the 8th Amendment against excessive bail and her 14th Amendment right to due process by being imprisoned for failing to pay a garbage collection fee, and by continuing to be threatened with imprisonment for failure to pay the fine. So they say she owes $150. They lock her up and say, you got to post $2,500 to get out. Why not? You got to pay $150 to get out. That could just be me thinking that would be obvious, but I guess. Meanwhile, the trash collection company, which provides trash collection for the city, knew that the city used criminal prosecutions and jail time, or the threat thereof, to collect fees that eventually benefited them, the suit says. So they were a direct beneficiary of the jail threats because it was paid from revenues derived from a system enforced ultimately by the imposition of jail time for failure to pay garbage fees. The company knew of this process, and without their services, the fees would never have been collected. So I guess they've also named the trash collection company. The suit also accused the city and the company of engaging in a pattern of racketeering activity by using the threat and intimidation of jail time to extort money from these people. And here's the thing. There's always going to be some people who say, Steve, you need to pay your bills. If you don't pay your bills, bad things happen. Well, if you don't pay your bills, bad things should happen. But not being arrested and locked up and held on an excessive bond. I can tell you that in Michigan, if you don't pay some of your bills, they'll cut off your service or they'll simply slap a lien on your property. They'll get the money eventually. And I know some people say, well, Steve, if they slap the lien on your property and you're only 40 years old and you live there for another 50 years, you won't get the money for 50 years. Well, how often do you hear about that happening? And so often we hear these stories where somebody fell on hard times and it's $50. It's $50. And I have a sneaky feeling, or $85 or whatever it is, that these people will eventually be able to raise the money and get around to it. You can cut off services. I know places who've had, obviously their power cut off. They didn't pay the power bill. I've heard of people having their water shut off because they couldn't pay the water bill. And I've never heard of people being arrested for it in Michigan. Now, again, this will vary wildly from state to state. But as the attorneys have pointed out here, and as a judge has appeared to agree, there is a law on the books in Alabama that says that if you willingly don't pay a bill, that is you could but you don't, then that is a crime. But if you simply can't pay the bill, otherwise you wind up in a situation with debtors' prisons where you lock somebody up. And the question really is, why are you locking somebody up? Is that the best use of our jails? And will that get someone to pay who cannot pay? And so if you can't scrape up the $150, you certainly can't scrape up the $1,500 or $2,500 bond either. And I have seen so many situations where somebody owed money and they were in a court setting. And I've seen it where they posted a bond and they've made the bond the exact amount of money that somebody owed. And so when they come up with the money to get out of jail, they go, okay, well, now that you've got the money, pay this bill. But I've seen that more in criminal settings where somebody owes a fine, for instance, and hasn't paid it and they're in court. But this is a little different. This is simply the trash collection, and she hadn't paid her trash collection bill. And she was the one thrown in jail for $85. The other woman, 82 years old, was thrown in jail for $77. And so that does seem like a rather draconian practice. And I think most people agree with me, although I know for a fact that I'm going to get one or two people going, Steve, if you don't pay your bills, bad things are going to happen. So there you go. And if you do type that, by the way, I beat you to it. So there you go. Michael, Alexander, and Philip all sent this. I'll also post a link to the previous story below. AL.com published Howard Koplowitz's story. Thank God this part is over. Alabama judge throws out the case against the woman charged with not paying her $85 trash bill. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Nothing ever comes to one that is worth having except as a result of hard work.